Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 17. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text 17. Karmano yapi bodhavyam sapi karmanaha. Akarmana sabodhavyam gana karmano gati. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Commentary by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between action, inaction, and authorized action. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted actions, because it's a very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. This is one who has learned perfectly, knows that every living entity is an internal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed towards this conclusion. Any other conclusions against this consciousness and its attendant actions are vikarmas, or prohibited actions. Understanding all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent persons will be bewildered. Read the verse again. Karmano yabi bodhavyam savi karmana akarmana sabodhavyam karna karmano kati. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should properly know what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Omagyanati mandasya snakya sakshavan militam yena tasmai shikove nama chichitayamano vistam stapitam yena bhutali brahmabhakadamayam dadhati svapadam vikam vandeham shiyo shiyudapad kamalam shigoram vaishnavam sam. Upam Pragajatam Sakanaragnatam Tam Tam Sachivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakanalita Shifishakam Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sinudina Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskata Tapta Krishna Gauna Gira Devinavanestre Krishman Siddhadevi Panamama Hare Pankha Kauta Visha Kripa Visha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Dikora Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachani Visatani. I'm very happy to be with you today. I think last year we met also. Was in the middle of the pandemic. But yes, we are here again by Krishna's mercy. Can I do some service for you? And what I want to speak about today is about acting according to our real identity. The power of acting according to what we really are. The power of spiritual identity. So, who are we, Krishna says. 15:7 Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vamsu, Shive, Nauke, Shiva, Bhuta, Sanatan. So we are eternally a separate part and parcel of Krishna. And in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada explains, one who has learned perfectly, one who perfectly knows, he knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord. That's what we are. And we can connect with the Lord by service. But it's good to understand what's our real position. Srila Prabhupada many times explained, you see this hand here? This is a gross hand and a gross arm. Beneath the gross and the arm and the hand, there's a subtle arm and a subtle hand. That because the gross body grows upon the subtle body. So beneath the gross is the subtle. And the subtle can only grow because of the presence of the soul. And the soul is a form. So Srila Prabhupada said, the spiritual hand is there, but it's covered by subtle and a gross hand. We get that point? That's very important. So then the question is, if we have to act according as the spirit soul, we have to act with the spiritual body, right? And not identify with the gross body. We can do that even if we are in this gross body. But this verse that we just read today explains that, how to do that. But it's important to know, what does the gross and subtle body do, and what does the soul do? So what is the symptom of the soul? Why do we know the soul is in the body? Yeah, alive means consciousness, yes. Consciousness. Consciousness comes from the soul, that's a symptom. But what's the activity of the soul? What does the soul do? That's important to understand. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in 3:27, Prakriti kriyamanani guna karamana sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartamiti manyate. One who thinks himself the doer in this world, he's a big fool, Krishna says, because everything is done by material nature. So my hand is moving, I'm speaking, material nature is doing that. And who controls material nature? The super soul. Krishna says, Maya Dakshana Prakriti. We don't control much. We don't control our heartbeat. We don't control our digestion. You don't control what you are going to remember in a few seconds. You may remember or you may not. Krishna says, Avasyam, Vedisham, Vishnu, Mata Smitiranamapamsa. I am remembrance, knowledge, forgetful. So that's all done by material nature. But we think we are doing. So there are 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are 5 factors of action, as adhisthanam, the gross body, with the senses, the karanam, and then you have all the endeavors of the subtle body, and that's all under control of the super soul. But you have, these are 4 factors, but the 5th factor is the karta, is the doer. If everything is done by material nature, what does the soul do? It's very essential to know. Desire. Yes. It becomes attached to something, which is desire. And that's explained in this first verse. This desire of the soul will determine whether we are going to act as a spirit soul or as the body. Yeah. Is that clear? But now you have different options. Krishna gives 3 different options. So you can activate, you can imagine you have 3 buttons before you, and we are going to activate different energies. First you have the red button, you have a green button, and you have a blue button. 3 buttons. And with your desire, you can push on these buttons. 3 different kinds of desires. So we can desire so let's begin with the good news. The blue button is the button of Krishna consciousness. It's called here akarmani. That it's called, inaction. Inaction, materially inactive, but spiritually active. Because that's Arjuna's confusion. It doesn't understand in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, if I'm going to act, if I act in Krishna consciousness, that I'm not acting materially, that I'm not going to get reactions, and that I'm going to become purified. So you have this blue button. One who pushes the blue button of Krishna consciousness, how is he called in Bhagavad Gita? In the 13th chapter, in the 9th chapter. 9, 14, I think.
Akarma?
It is a karma, that's a technical name. But the person who performs a karma, who is he called there? 9:13 or 9:14? Sura? Krishna called him a Mahatma, a great soul. Mahatmanas tumam parta devim prakatri ashrita. A Mahatma is always connect with the spiritual energy. Devi Prakati. That's a Mahatma. That's one who acts spiritually. Mahatmas to Mamparta Devim Prakati Ashut. And in the next verse, I think it's 9:13, it says how to do that. Statatam kirtayantamam yatantasha vitavata. Statatam, always. Kirtan, glorification of the Supreme Lord. Kirtan is not only singing. Kirtan, glorification of Krishna, means acting for the pleasure of Krishna. And do that always with great determination. So that's the blue button. That's the Mahatmas push this button. And then they act with the spiritual body. That is because the spiritual body, originally we belong to the spiritual world, an eternal world, because the soul is eternal. We belong to this eternal world because this world here is incompatible with the soul. It's temporary. Dukkhalayama sasvatam, full of misery. But in the spiritual world, everyone has his spiritual body active, right? And they are acting only for the pleasure of Krishna. So with the spiritual body, you can only use that for devotional service, spiritual activities like the Mahatmas, always, and they don't have the red or the green button, only the blue one. No, there's no other, there's no question of choice there. That, but there's no question of choice. You are connected with the spiritual energy in your spiritual body, serving Krishna in great bliss. But one time, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to know, a little curious, what would it be to be Krishna? And Krishna said, okay. Are you sure? And Krishna said, there is a problem. I'm Krishna, I'm God. So if you want to be God, if you want to be the controller, you must forget me. That's the first thing that happened to us. We forgot Krishna. And Krishna said, yeah, okay. You want to do activities without me and control. You cannot do that with your spiritual body. So I will give you a place in the spiritual world, the dark clouds, and I will give you a subtle and a gross body. Interesting, a subtle and a gross body. The subtle body means the mind, right? And the body, the intelligence, and false ego. False ego is a result of a body and a mind used for exploiting this world. That, but this is intelligence and feelings, emotions in the mode of passion, good, and the mode of ignorance, good for exploiting the world, to have activities in this material world, because you cannot do that with your spiritual body. But interesting, if you go to the first canto of the Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, in the beginning, verses 4 till 7, there we have Srila Vyasadeva is meditating on the absolute truth, with devotion. That, and he gives his realizations in a few verses there. But in one of the purpose of these verses, Srila Prabhupada writes, and that's very significant to understand, in its original position, the spirit soul has its own thinking, feeling, willing, and its own intelligence. It does not need this material body and this subtle body. But because we wanted to use our spiritual body for material activities, automatically this subtle and gross body has developed. First the subtle body, and upon that the gross body. We get that point? That so the point is, we must reactivate our spiritual body and our own spiritual emotions, thinking, feeling, willing, and so on. And that's eternal. That's eternal. Like, I'm thinking of, you know the story of Bharat Maharaj, how he went to 3 lives. First, he meditated, he was already on the stage of bhava, beyond liberation. That means his spiritual body started to become reactivated. It's beyond liberation. But still, he did not get a perfection. He was diverted by a deer, and he got the body of a deer. But he remembered his previous life, everything. Because spiritual thinking, feeling, willing, his memory, spiritual memory was reactivated. We get that point? Like Narada Muni in his previous life, if he speaks about his previous life, and that he remembered his spiritual in his previous life, every detail. He tells to Prahlad, the Bhagavatam. It's in the Bhagavatam. All details are there. Although it's in a new creation of Mahavishnu, it's a very long time ago. He remembers everything. Means his spiritual body has become reactivated. So it's very important in everything we do, we push this blue button. That means doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna, always, always. Another motivation. There are so many definitions about that consciousness to push on this blue body. It's called pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is the highest occupation for mankind. But to count as pure devotional service, you must have these 2 qualities. Apratiyata, ahaituk. Only no material motivation, just to please Krishna, and always without interruption. And then you will feel satisfied on the spiritual platform. Your heart will become purified. And after the purification going on for 20, 30 years, then you will come to that platform, spiritual platform of Jivan Mukta, liberated souls. And Srila Prabhupada quotes many times, Nectar of Devotion. If one uses one's body, mind, and senses only in the service for Krishna always, one is liberated. One acts as a spirit soul. The spiritual body is activated. You are using the spiritual body, not the material body. We are using our spiritual identity, our real identity. That's the point. And then you act as a liberated soul, but we must not always do. So Prabhupada says that someone who acts like this is imperceptibly liberated. Imperceptibly liberated. So very soon he will be liberated. Very soon. Because that's purifying the heart very quickly. So, but how to do that? We must learn from the Bhagavatam every day. Every day you have the Bhagavatam. And that mood, this inner mood required for acting always as one spiritual identity will become awakened in the heart. In the heart. That, but there are two other buttons, the green one and the red one, and we should not touch them. The red one are activities forbidden in the scriptures, and they cause suffering. They cause suffering. That and the pious activities, the green button, are activities, karma kanda and so on, to be elevated to the heavenly planets. But we don't want to go there. If you read the Bhagavatam, you understand it's also dukkha lingam sasvatam, full of misery and temporary. There you have all these Star Wars going on, and the fight between the big demons and the demigods. There is also no peace and happiness there. That so we don't want to go there, because you have to take birth again and die. What's the use of that? And if we want to enjoy in this world, this body, we should always remember, Krishna says, so it's the wise have concluded, if you want to enjoy, then the result will be suffering. You must pray for enjoyment in this world. With suffering. That this is a very stringent law, the laws of material nature. And even if you can enjoy, it's temporary. It is, yeah. And all these activities, this green and this red button, and this so-called karma, good karma, or sukarma and vikarma, yes, they are only prolonging our stay in this material world. So Bhagavad Gita gives us a picture of what is real. Because Krishna has discussed the material world in Bhagavad Gita, dukkha lingam sasvatam. He said the body is temporary. The enjoyment and the objects of enjoyment are temporary. But can we get eternal happiness? This, of course, you have this materialistic philosophy. In India, one of the oldest materialistic philosophies is the philosophy of Sarvak Muni. Make sure you enjoy in life with this body. If you have to borrow, steal, whatever, do it, but be sure you enjoy. And that's many times also the philosophy of many people today. And there are other deviating philosophies who say the world is unreal, enjoyment and suffering is an illusion. Stop the pain and pleasure for good. The Buddhists, the Jains, so many philosophies. Others are rejecting these philosophies. There are so many speculations about what's real and unreal. But Krishna gives here the right point, the real picture, the bigger picture. The body and this world are real, he says. But we cannot get eternal happiness in this world. We can get eternal happiness, but not in this world. Not in this body, not in this material world. What is Krishna's solution? Here is the blue button, Krishna's color. You have to push this button with your desire, with your attachment, and we have to create this, to develop this attachment and be aware, I should not touch the other buttons. It's just misery. And it's a hard lesson to learn. And that, so, because we are eternal. Atma is eternal. That, and the Atma wants happiness. What is this happiness? It's want to love and be loved. And that can only really be attained in relation with Krishna, because by nature we are a part of Krishna. Must connect. We must connect with Krishna. If you have an iPhone or another phone, so many apps. But if you don't have internet, what are you going to do with it? The same. The Atma must be connected. If it's connected with this material energy, then you are pushing these two buttons. And we have pushed a lot of these buttons in the past, because that has created these bodies. The proof is there. You have a material body, you have pushed these wrong buttons. So in this life, we must decide differently. We need to free the soul from this material world. That, so we are, yes, but that requires that we understand who Krishna is. Otherwise, we cannot serve him. Because if we don't understand who Krishna is, we cannot understand who we are. That's Sambandha Jnana, knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. Krishna consciousness means living in a relationship with Krishna, of ecstatic love, swimming in pools of ecstasy, Damodar Lila. That's what we are meant for. But we must realize that the Lord is in a higher position than us, that he is Param Uttama, or Purushottama, Purusha Uttama, the Supreme Person. At the end of the 15th chapter, Krishna says, there are the fallible and the infallible souls. In the next verse, it says, but beyond the fallible and infallible souls, there is a Supreme Person who controls both, That means, Srila Prabhupada says in a lecture, whether you are liberated or conditioned, you are still, both are conditioned by Krishna's energy. The liberated soul is conditioned by the spiritual energy. And materially conditioned soul by the material energy. But we are under Krishna's energy, but it's much better to be under Krishna's spiritual energy, because then we are at home. Why? Because we are spiritual. That's we don't have anything to do. That, but to live in our relationship with Krishna, we must know who controls material nature. That we know that Krishna creates, maintains, destroys, and he enters this material world. Is in every atom. So we must understand Atma is not the same as Bhagavan or Paramatma. The Supreme Lord is the controller. We are the controlled. So the solution, the Mahatmas, yeah, Krishna says, Mama Maya Drachyan, Mami Vaye Prapachante, Maya Mitam Taranti. Yeah, you say that this material energy is very difficult to overcome, Durachaya, but one who is surrendering to me can easily cross over it. So, therefore, Krishna explains in the 7th chapter of the Gita, he speaks about 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to him, and 4 kinds of people who surrender to him. Chatur, yeah. Chatur Vida Vichantimam Yechana Sukritarhina Achta Shikhnashu Achtartishana Jnanisa Bharatakshabam. 4 kinds of people would surrender unto Krishna. Those who want to be free from distress, those who are curious, want to know things, then those who want wealth, and those who want liberation, and who want to know the absolute truth, And the last one is the best, Krishna says. But all 4 are great souls, he says. So we don't have to worry that if we have still material desires, we cannot be Krishna's devotee. No, you can. But we have to work to come to the position of the jnani, and go beyond that. Because you have different kinds of knowledge, but we need that knowledge who Krishna is, who we are, and what our relation is. And we need the knowledge how to act in that relationship. And we need the knowledge that the goal of life is prema punartaman, is developing love for Krishna. And therefore we must hear. And just by hearing the Bhagavad Gita daily, we will progress to that point. Because that will bring this Dhyan to Vijnan. And what is the result of hearing? You want to serve Krishna. You want to act as a spirit soul. So the Bhagavatam gives us back our spiritual IQ, spiritual intelligence. We need spiritual intelligence to progress. And that is a higher intelligence. That intelligence is not received to the brain. That people may be very interested, very intellectual, and expert in exploiting this material world. So expert that you can get a master's in it, master's in business administration, how to organize systems, how to exploit and get the greatest result with the least input, that and people become very expert, and they are considered to be intelligent. That also academics. When I was doing my PhD at the University of Wales on PhD in the study of religion, I met so many scholars who know Bhagavad Gita and could quote it, but none of them could understand that they are not a body. No realization, just scholarly knowledge. That doesn't help. How does one get this knowledge? Krishna, how did Brahma get it? Tene Brahma Hridaya Apikavaye, the Bhagavatam, first verses. He got it from Krishna through the heart. In the heart is the soul, to the soul, he gets it. Right? That's how we get transcendental knowledge. Tesam satayuktam bachnam pridivulkam dadami buddhiyontam yena mamupayantate. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Krishna says, you perform devotional service with a little love, then I give you this transcendental knowledge to the heart. That and how does he do that? Tesam evanakampatam amakyanat shantaman nasajam atma bhavastu gyantipanavashita. Within the heart, with the jnana dipanya, with the lamp of knowledge, I destroys ignorance and give him real knowledge, the knowledge how to act on the spiritual platform. So the jnana becomes vijnana. And that's important. Jnana alone will not help us. We must know how to apply that in our lives. And Krishna gives that form in our heart. But there's a problem. Tesham satayuktam vachsampayadu bhuvikam dadami buddhiyam tam yenam yenamamupyantiti. Krishna gives the knowledge to the heart when we serve him with a little love. But mostly, we don't even have that little love. But Krishna made the arrangement. Tatvina Pranapadna, Parakrishna Sevya, Protection Tesham, Jnanastat Pradakshina. You serve the spiritual master with submission, you inquire from him about spiritual life. Then you follow his instructions. Means the spiritual master gives us instructions. How to engage in devotional service. Nectar of Devotion, 64 items. How to engage in devotional service. 10 things to do, 10 things not to do, and 44 ways to serve Krishna. 64. Following that is called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. We follow the instructions of the spiritual master how to serve Krishna. And if we do that, then Krishna, if we follow these instructions, Krishna accepts that as a little love. And he gives you, by the mercy of the spiritual master, his knowledge from within the heart. And then we can become more and more happy. Gradually. So, therefore, acting as our real self, not acting as the body, not acting as a subtle or diverse body. That we have to learn. That always acting in relationship with Krishna, and our life will become sublime, we become purified. In due course of time, we go back to the spiritual world where we belong. I hope that's helpful. Any questions? Yeah.
Хорошо говорил о том, что мы должны освободиться из материального мира. Ну, то есть он делал на этом акцент. Но я думаю, что акцент надо больше ставить на отношения. То есть, ну, раньше у меня было настроение. So, the question here, you mentioned that we need to be liberated from this world and from the spiritual world. But what about relationships with Krishna, building a relationship with Krishna? Раньше мой мотив практики сознания Кришны был в том, чтобы освободиться от страданий и уйти из материального мира. А сейчас мотив больше служения Кришне. То есть, ну, я понимаю, что имеет место быть, освободить отношения Yeah, the Bhagavad is sharing the experience that before, like its spiritual growth was built on serving Krishna to remove troubles from his life. Now he understands that serving Krishna, to please Krishna, is more important.
Good.
That's why he's thinking about building a relationship with Krishna.
That is shown. That's very good. But
Еще какой вопрос? Вопрос в том, что был акцент на том, что нужно привести из материального мира.
I understand the point, I think. You have all fingers. You have a fingerprint, right? It's unique. It's your fingerprint. That indicates that we have all a specific relationship with Krishna. That We have all a personal relationship with Krishna, a unique relationship, everyone, because we are a part of Krishna. Krishna does not feel whole if we don't serve him, if we are his part. But Krishna consciousness is a process from Shraddha to Prema. Shraddha means I have some faith that Krishna exists, and I read Bhagavad Gita, and maybe I should try it. And then Sadhu Sangha, you associate with devotees, then you take a spiritual master, you try to progress Sadhu Sangha, and then from the devotees you learn Abhideya or Bhajana Kriya, how to perform devotional service. And you start to perform devotional service in the middle, in the beginning difficult, but then after some time it becomes more deep, and you come into anartha nivritti, the heart becomes purified. And when the heart, that takes normally 20, 30 years, and heart is completely purified, you come to Nishtha, and that's the Brahman realization. Then you realize you are liberated from the material miseries. But that's the platform of liberation, where you can start fixing your mind on Krishna, because before it's always absorbed in the material world. Then you have realized you are not a body, but you have not realized who you are. Then you start to realize, I'm a servant of Krishna. You start to serve Krishna, that Nishtha, and then by serving Krishna in the liberated state, then Ruchi, you become attracted to Krishna. It's like a magnet, iron to magnet. And that attraction grows then very quickly. And then you come to the point of always thinking of Krishna in your heart. That's Ashakti. Srila Prabhupada calls the states of Ashakti. That's practically the beginning, Paramatma realization. You realize you see Krishna in your heart. But there we are coming to the point you are making. That's explained. Yeah. First, I give two references to that. It's a lecture of Srila Prabhupada of Nectar of Instruction, text 5. And it says, yes, in the beginning we chant. Sometimes we remember Krishna, sometimes we forget Krishna. But if you make progress to anartha nivritti, purification stage, the period that you remember Krishna while chanting becomes longer. The period that you forget Krishna becomes shorter. And when you come to the platform of liberation, Nishtha, when you chant, you remember Krishna always, always. And then after that, if you remember, the remembrance becomes deeper. And then Srila Prabhupada said, as the remembrance becomes deeper, Krishna starts to reveal himself to you. Reveal himself. First, his beautiful form. You start to see him in your heart. And that's a form you feel attracted to. That's the form, in that form that is revealed, is described in the third canto, in the verse Tvam Bhakti Yoga Pariratya, yeah, Tvam Bhakti Yoga and so on. So this verse explains that if you come absorbed in hearing about Krishna, and you chant, it comes to the heart, and your heart is become purified, then Krishna, within the heart, will appear to you in the form that you feel attracted to. And that's called Ishta Deva. And that's an indication of your direct relationship with Krishna. Krishna appears in that form, you see sweetness, its beauty, that you feel ecstasy just. And then then you will see in your heart that Krishna is in an environment, a spiritual environment. You see the parrots in the spiritual worlds and kalpavriksha trees. And then he will reveal. Then you will see that Krishna is alone. He has his associates. And finally, you enter his aprakat lila, unmanifested pastimes that are going on in Goloka Vrindavan, in your heart. That is a very high realization. After that realization, there are 2 stages or more, that there's Bhava and Prema. And then we think Prema, it's finished. No, there are 7 stages of Prema. That Pranaya, Mana, Pralaya, then there's this attraction for Krishna, Raga, Anuraga, then Bhava as a stage of Prema, and then Mahabhava. This is the Gopis and Srimad Radharani. So that's all described by our acharyas. Vishwanath Thakur in Madhurya Nambini describes that. So many information we have. But be assured, you have a personal relationship with Krishna. After liberation, Nishta, you realize I'm a servant of Krishna, but you don't know which servant. But that will be revealed later. That does not depend on ourselves. Krishna will reveal that. And it will be natural. We will feel attracted to it. Naturally, we will feel attracted. Anyway, there's more detailed information, but I thought that it was this point you wanted to know. Is that correct? Okay. Something else? Good. Thank you. I was very happy to be with you. And I hope to be able to serve you again in the future. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.